When people think of Orlando, Florida, they think of Disney World and other fun theme parks, thrilling roller coasters, and family-filled fun. It's no surprise that the city is a magnet for those pursuing careers in hospitality, given its abundance of theme parks, recreational activities, and hotels. Orlando's thriving hospitality industry drew Jennifer Kesse to the area. Originally from nearby Tampa, Jennifer didn't have to travel far to begin her dream career. After graduating from Vivian Gaither High School, she moved to Orlando to attend the University of Central Florida. In 2003, she earned her degree in finance. Jennifer's parents described her as a vibrant, warm person who lit up any room with her beautiful smile and bright blue eyes. Her younger brother Logan shared a close bond with Jennifer, and both siblings were raised with a strong emphasis on personal safety. This value was deeply ingrained after their parents had been held at gunpoint years earlier while living in New Jersey. Given her focus on safety, Jennifer regularly kept in touch with her family in Tampa, checking in daily, sometimes several times a day. She always answered her phone or returned calls promptly, especially with her parents. At 24 years old, Jennifer wasn't the typical young adult. She had recently purchased her own condo in a developing area of Orlando, a complex called the Mosaic at Millenia, which was still under construction. The neighborhood featured a high-end mall nearby, ideal for Jennifer, who loved shopping. Though the area was in the process of being revitalized, Jennifer was cautious. Contractors were frequently in and out of her condo, making her uneasy. She always stayed on the phone with someone when walking from her car to her apartment after work. Jennifer had recently begun working at a timeshare company in Ocoee, where she had already earned 2 promotions within her first year. Life seemed to be going well until everything took a dark turn in January 2006. At the time, Jennifer was in a long-distance relationship with Rob Allen, whom she had met a year earlier at a bar in Orlando. Despite living in Fort Lauderdale, the couple maintained their relationship, and they had just returned from a romantic vacation the day before her disappearance. After spending the night at Rob's, Jennifer drove back to Orlando for work. She followed her usual routine, calling friends and family after work and speaking to Rob around 10 p.m. According to Rob, the conversation was normal. Jennifer was just tired. She was expected to leave for work the next morning between 7:30 and 8 a.m., but she never arrived. When her co-workers noticed her absence, alarm bells started to ring. Rob and her family tried calling her throughout the day, but all calls went unanswered or went straight to voicemail. Jennifer's parents were contacted by her employer around 11 a.m., and they quickly realized something was wrong when they couldn't reach her either. Her brother Logan hadn't heard from her, which was highly unusual. Drew and Joyce Kesse immediately reached out to local police stations and hospitals, but there was no sign of Jennifer. When they called her condo's manager, they were told her unit looked untouched, though her car was missing from the parking lot. Her parents rushed to Orlando to search for answers. Upon arriving at her apartment, they found signs that Jennifer had gotten ready for work that morning. Damp towels, clothes on the bed, and makeup scattered on the counter. Her iPod, keys, and her Chevy Malibu were missing, but her apartment was undisturbed. Initially, the police didn't take Jennifer's disappearance seriously. They suspected she had simply run off, especially after Rob mentioned a minor disagreement they'd had the night before. However, her family knew better, and after handing out their own flyers, the police finally began investigating her disappearance 48 hours later. Neighbors reported seeing Jennifer's car leaving the complex around 7:40 a.m. on the morning she went missing, driving erratically. Investigators turned their attention to her loved ones, questioning family members, Rob, and even an ex-boyfriend. All were cleared of involvement. The construction workers at Jennifer's condo complex soon became persons of interest. Many of them stayed in the vacant units, and Jennifer had complained about being harassed by some of them, especially by cat calls. Her father knew she was uncomfortable with their presence. However, questioning the workers proved challenging, as many were undocumented immigrants, and they disappeared once the investigation started. 2 days after Jennifer vanished, her car was found at the Huntington on the Green apartment complex. Despite examining the vehicle, no signs of a struggle or robbery were found, and a fingerprint left behind was Jennifer's. Police received a break when surveillance footage from the complex showed someone parking Jennifer's car. Unfortunately, the grainy footage and a gate obscuring the view made identifying the person impossible. The FBI analyzed the footage and determined the individual to be between 5 feet 3 inches and 5 feet 5 inches, possibly wearing construction-like clothing. The suspect's identity and gender remain unknown. Jennifer's parents have since become advocates for families of missing persons. They even had her photo distributed on playing cards sent to local jails. One inmate came forward with information, but it led nowhere. In 2016, Jennifer was declared legally dead. Today, her family continues to fight for answers, pursuing their own investigation and encouraging anyone with information to come forward. Claudia Lawrence vanished after finishing work over 15 years ago, and though her body has never been found, authorities have treated her case as a murder. Here's what we know about her mysterious disappearance. Claudia Elizabeth Lawrence, a 35-year-old chef, was last seen in March 2009. She worked at Goodrick College, part of the University of York, when she went missing. Despite police treating her case as a homicide and arresting several suspects, her fate remains unknown. Born on February 27, 1974 in Malton, Yorkshire, Claudia had a privileged upbringing and attended private schools. She later trained as a chef at a local catering college, leading her to a career in York's hospitality industry. Initially working in hotels and restaurants, Claudia eventually grew tired of the long hours. In 2006, she took a job at the University of York, where she served as a chef in their main campus canteen. Despite staying single, Claudia had an active social life, maintaining relationships with multiple men, including some who were already married or in relationships. This secretive aspect of her personal life later drew significant media attention and influenced the investigation into her disappearance. Her sister, Allie Sims, defended Claudia, acknowledging that while her relationships may have raised eyebrows, they didn't define her as a person. She wasn't perfect, but she was sweet and didn't deserve this, Allie said. In 2007, Claudia moved to Heworth, where she regularly visited the Nag's Head pub near her home. There, she reportedly formed relationships with several men, and her father later admitted that these encounters sometimes led to awkward situations with their partners. On March 18, 2009, Claudia began her workday at 6 a.m. at Goodrick College, finishing her shift by 2 p.m. CCTV footage captured her leaving the campus on foot. Later, around 3 p.m., she was seen again on CCTV near her home, and a neighbor confirmed seeing her. That evening, she spoke with her parents, discussing plans for Mother's Day, with her mood described as calm and normal. She mentioned that she would go to bed early to prepare for her early start the next day. Claudia sent her last known text message at 8:23 p.m., and she received one final message at 9:12 p.m. After that, she was never heard from again. The following morning, Claudia failed to show up for her 6 a.m. shift, and although her manager attempted to contact her, no further action was taken initially. By the evening of March 19th, Claudia had plans to meet her friend Susie Cooper at the Nag's Head, but she didn't show up. Concerned, Susie and other friends tried calling her again the next day. Fearing something was wrong, Susie reached out to mutual friends, including George Foreman, the landlord of the Nag's Head. On March 20th, Susie contacted Claudia's father, Peter Lawrence, who then called her manager and learned that Claudia hadn't reported for work in 2 days. Peter and George used a key to enter Claudia's home. Inside, everything appeared normal. Her bed was made, dishes were in the sink, and her handbag, including her purse and bank cards, was still there. However, her mobile phone, hair straighteners, and backpack were missing. North Yorkshire police were contacted that afternoon, but initial investigations were slow. The police didn't see Claudia as vulnerable and assumed she would return soon. However, her family insisted that something was wrong, believing she had been abducted. 5 weeks later, the investigation shifted to a suspected murder case. Following public appeals for information, 2 witnesses came forward. One reported seeing a cyclist on Melrose Gate Bridge at 5:35 a.m. on March 19th, and another commuter claimed to have seen a couple arguing around 6:05 a.m. near the university. The man was described as skinny, about 5 feet 6 inches, and wearing a dark hoodie. CCTV footage also showed a suspicious individual behind Claudia's house around 5:50 a.m. on the day she went missing. In 2024, Wayne Fox, the senior investigating officer, marked the 15th anniversary of Claudia's disappearance, expressing his support for her family. Claudia's mother, Joan Lawrence, now 80, has never given up hope, stating, "All I want for Claudia's birthday is to know what happened to her." Claudia would have turned 50 in February 2024. Amber Alyssa Tuccaro, a 21-year-old woman from the Mikisew Cree First Nation, was living in Alberta, Canada, with her mother, Tootsie, and her young son, Jacob. On August 17, 2010, Amber traveled with her 14-month-old son and a female friend from Fort McMurray to Edmonton for a weekend getaway. To save money, they planned to stay outside the city that night and head into Edmonton the following day. However, shortly after arriving, Amber decided she wanted to go into the city that night, leaving her son with her friend and attempting to hitchhike. When Amber didn't return the next day, her friend alerted her mother, Tootsie, who promptly contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to report her missing. Tootsie later revealed that the RCMP didn't seem to take the case seriously, initially believing Amber was still in Edmonton and suggesting she was likely out partying. They assured her mother that Amber would resurface eventually.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north of Beaumont. Yo, where are we going? No, this is a... Are you f***ing kidding me? You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city. Jeez. Yo, we're not going into the city, are we?
We're going.
No, we're not.
Yes.
Then where the f*** are these roads going to?
50th Street.
50th Street. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street?
50th Street.
East, right?
East.
Over now.
Travel.
It wasn't until 2 years after Amber's disappearance that a significant piece of evidence emerged, leading the RCMP to announce they believed she had been murdered. This evidence was a recording of a phone call Amber made while in a car with the man suspected of killing her. In the call, Amber is heard questioning the man about their route as he insists they are heading north to 50th Street. Amber repeats his directions but continues to express doubt about whether they are going the right way. The RCMP suspect that instead of taking Amber north toward the city as she expected, the man drove her southeast along remote country roads. On September 1, 2012, 2 years after her disappearance, horseback riders came across partial human remains in a field in Leduc County, just south of the motel where Amber had been staying. These remains were identified as Amber's. It was also revealed that the phone call was actually 17 minutes long, matching the exact amount of time it took to drive from Amber's motel to the location where her remains were discovered. In the early hours of April 1, 2006, Brian Shaffer, a promising 27-year-old medical student, entered the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar located in the Gateway Building on North High Street in Columbus, Ohio. Security cameras captured him entering the bar, but strangely, no footage ever showed him leaving, and no one recalls seeing him exit. Calls to his phone repeatedly went to voicemail, deepening the mystery surrounding his disappearance. 5 months later, a curious clue surfaced when Shaffer's girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, who had been calling his phone every night since his disappearance, suddenly heard ringing on the other end. Despite the phone ringing, no one answered. Alexis expressed her bittersweet relief on her MySpace page, describing the sound of the ringing as one of the best sounds she'd ever heard. The call appeared to ping off a cell phone tower in Hilliard, though Shaffer's phone provider, Singular, suggested it could have been a glitch. In the years since Shaffer's mysterious disappearance, his case has captured widespread attention, inspiring countless articles, TV documentaries, podcasts, a Wikipedia page, and online discussions, including hundreds of message threads on Reddit. The Columbus Police Department has referred to it as one of their most perplexing cases. Shaffer's last known evening began with a dinner at a local steakhouse with his father, Randy. The two were still mourning the loss of Brian's mother, who had died of cancer just 3 weeks earlier. Randy noted that Brian seemed exhausted from preparing for his final exams, but was looking forward to going out for drinks with his friend, Clint Florence, later that night. Brian had also planned to go on vacation to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis, in just 3 days, a trip during which many believed he would propose. Around 9 p.m., Brian met up with Clint at the Ugly Tuna, and shortly after, he called Alexis, who was spending the weekend in Toledo. The two friends spent the night bar hopping along High Street before running into Clint's friend, Meredith Reed, in the Arena District after midnight. Meredith offered them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna, where they decided to have one last round of drinks. Security cameras captured Brian stepping off the escalator and into the bar, but that was the last confirmed sighting of him. Sometime after 1:55 a.m., Brian was seen on camera speaking briefly with two women outside the bar before appearing to re-enter. At closing time, Clint and Meredith waited at the top of the escalator for Brian, but when he didn't appear, they assumed he had gone home. Over the weekend, Brian's friends and family grew increasingly worried when he failed to answer phone calls. The real panic set in on Monday morning when Brian missed his flight to Miami with Alexis. Randy immediately contacted the police and a comprehensive search was launched. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Brian was found in the bar, nearby businesses, construction sites, or his apartment. In desperation, Randy even consulted a psychic who mentioned water and a pier, prompting the family to search the nearby Olentangy River, but nothing turned up. Investigators had no concrete leads to pursue. Brian Shaffer was well-liked, intelligent, and caring. While his passion for medicine wasn't his first choice, he had once dreamed of being a musician like his idol Jimmy Buffett. He seemed content with his future, both professionally and personally. His sudden disappearance led to a flood of theories, some of which were wild and far-fetched. Some speculated that he had left through a back exit and met with an accident at the nearby construction site, while others believed he had been abducted or perhaps decided to vanish voluntarily and start a new life. None of these theories have been substantiated,